Hi, this is Hot Chocolate with Paul. And even in the midst of this holiday season, which is supposed to be all joyful, um, I have a lot of thoughts and memories about chemical dependency, specifically alcoholism and drug addiction. I grew up with an alcoholic father, and there's a song that was written by John Denver, recorded on one of his albums sometime in the 1970s, and it was covered by country music artist Alan Jackson. And the words could have been written by me. The song is called Please Daddy, Don't Get Drunk This Christmas. It's a song that really stands out to me because it describes exactly what I went through as a child when my father would come home drunk, be drunk on holidays and things like that. So I'm going to be talking about those memories and give you kind of a message about what chemical dependency does, not only to you, but also what it does to your family. My dad grew up in Germany when Germany was at war in World War II. So even though Germans have a reputation for drinking a lot of beer, it is possible that his experiences with World War II led him to drinking more than he should have been drinking. But in any case, it was something he never resolved, and it affected his family, meaning my mother and him and me and my sisters, for the rest of his life. I grew up afraid of my dad because I never knew what he was going to be like after he came home from drinking, which was quite frequently. There were stages he went through as a drunk, and that included being cheerful, being happy. Then he would reach a point where he would get clumsy and he might fall. And then he reached a point where he was an angry drunk and he would lash out at whatever he perceived as something to bother him on any particular day. He usually took it out on my mother. My mother took the brunt of his abuse and tried to keep us three kids away from him. I can remember sitting in the living room so many times in the evening with my mother while watching TV or something. And then as his car came in the driveway, the lights would shine into the living room. And then I knew it would be time for me to run upstairs and pretend that I was asleep. And I can't hear very well. So I could hear the muffled sounds of him yelling at my mother about whatever. She took a lot of abuse from him. So I think I was about 13 years old when she told me that she was going to file for divorce against him. And I knew that he would be essentially out of my life because he wasn't going to be living at our house anymore. There was the court cases that usually happen with divorce proceedings at that time. And my mother was definitely going to take custody of us three kids. And I remember feeling that if for some reason he ended up with custody of me, I would have run away. I would not have stayed with him. I absolutely would have run away from him. I can remember so many times that he was driving with me in the car while drunk, and he would be weaving all over the road. And it amazes me to this day that I'm still alive in spite of it. Now you got to wonder, why wasn't he arrested? The laws were different in those days. We're talking about the 1960s, the 1970s. I'm even aware of one case where he literally fell asleep in front of an intersection on West Ridge Road in Greece, right in front of the police station. And all they did was they just took him out of the car and drove him home. That was it. Even though my mother had custody of us kids, my dad did have visitation rights. So we would sometimes go and spend the weekend at his home or his trailer after my parents' divorce. He did remarry, so he and his wife usually hosted us kids visiting. He still would drive drunk with us kids in the car sometimes. He did have his share of accidents from driving drunk. I'm aware of 7 vehicles that he wrecked because of it. It was after the last one happened, I think sometime in the early 1990s, that the court system finally took away his driver's license, and he never had the privilege of driving again for the rest of his life. All of these experiences left me with no desire whatsoever to be any kind of a drinker or have much to do with alcohol. I did not like being around people who had been drinking. I avoided it completely during my teen years. Don't forget that when I turned 18 was still the legal drinking age. So I even went to college and I saw quite a lot of drinking going on campus while I was in college. It was very common, not like today when campuses are alcohol free. I remember when I started out as a college freshman during parents' homecoming weekend when my mother visited, it was actually her that encouraged me to try a mixed drink just because she thought that I should at least be able to socialize a little bit with drinking. And it was a screwdriver, a mix of vodka and orange juice. And I must have acquired a taste for vodka at that time because that is actually one of the very few drinks that I actually like. The other one being sloe gin, because there was a bar in the Geneseo area called the Statesman where he was able to serve some very good sloe gin fizzes. And I know most people today don't know what a sloe gin fizz is. It's an older drink, and it is one that I happen to enjoy. Today, I drink maybe a couple times a month, and that's about it. For a long time, I completely avoided going to bars. Through my teen years and into my 20s and 30s and 40s and first half of the 50s, all those years, I very rarely went to a bar. And in most cases, it was only because I wanted to see a band that some of my friends were in. So I would go and see my friends' bands. It wasn't until after I was 55 and I met Stacey that I started going to bars with any kind of regularity. And that was because we like to go dancing and hang out with friends. I've gotten to the point where it is much easier for me these days to be around people who have been drinking. I'm used to it, but if somebody's totally sloshed, I just avoid them altogether. So dealing with an alcoholic in my life is tough. It's something I never want to go through again, or any kind of a chemical dependency for that matter. I know that after my first marriage ended and I felt I was ready to start dating again, I was fairly open-minded as far as who I might want to date, but I was quite sure that if there was somebody that had some kind of a chemical dependency problem, it wouldn't have happened. There have been times recently where I've had to deal with somebody in my life who does have a problem, and it is one of the most stressful things I've ever had to endure. I dealt with it for the first 13 years of my life with my father's alcoholism, and for me to have to deal with it again today is just totally traumatic to me. So this video is a message to you that if you have some kind of a problem, you need to take care of it. It's hurting more than just you. It hurts the people in your life, your family, and your friends. Do something about it. That's all for today. I'm Paul Packish, and this has been Hot Chocolate with Paul.